want to say your first and your last name? And what school you went to?
Marion, can I go to Marion?
Alexis, and I go to Tech. McKinley Tech. And I go to Tech.
I can't hear you.
Akayla Reynolds, and I go to Tech.
Rico Jones, and I go to Dunbar Senior High School.
Rebecca Eway, and I go to college.
Ayana Hall, and I go to Wilson.
That's when you find me. I go to Banner. I go to Fraser. I go to Wilson.
Oh, y'all uptown schools over here?
No.
I mean, McKinley. That's kind of uptown. That's northeast. Ain't over the river.
I did that because it's important for you all to know who you are. Just as we were ending that clip, it was talking about how the media can change or alter the perception of Black people. And so someone has already decided who you are, what you'll act like, who you'll be, where you'll go to college. If you go to college, they've already built jail cells based on failing test scores in public schools in Black neighborhoods across this country. So it's important for you to know who you are in order to combat the systems that try to tell you something different. So I do this with all of the young people that I work with. You all's week is about purging, right?
Yes.
And so I want you all to think about affirming yourself. So literally saying who you are and what you think that you are is really important. It's about feeding your spirit. And so I think there's a spiritual battle that comes with fighting mass incarceration in the school to prison pipeline. Because a lot of the music that you consume, the movies that you watch, and the TV that you watch will ultimately tell you that you belong in a prison cell, or that you don't deserve an education, or that you're not all of the positive things that us and the people in this program have tried to affirm that you are. So I would like you all to repeat after me. Is that okay? So y'all gotta say it like y'all mean it though, right? Okay? I am somebody.
I am somebody.
I am somebody.
I am somebody.
My mind is a pearl.
My mind is a pearl.
I can do anything.
I can do anything.
If my mind can conceive it.
If my mind can conceive it.
And my heart can believe it.
And my heart can believe it.
Then I can achieve it.
Then I can achieve it.
I am somebody.
I am somebody.
Say it like you mean it. I am somebody.
I am somebody.
Okay. I'm sure you know where that came from. So that is an affirmation that came right around, I guess like after the Civil Rights Movement. Jesse Jackson started to do it at a lot of rallies. Because it's really important for us to say who we are as a people collectively, and when you say it out loud, there is power in your words. So I guess I wanted that to be an introduction for you all. Not many people talk about the spiritual battle that comes with fighting mass incarceration or understanding the prison industrial complex or the school to prison pipeline. Do you all understand what those terms mean?
Yes.
Yes, no?
Yes.
So, school to prison pipeline. So there are statistics that show that young people go directly from public education from schools into prison cells, and predominantly Black and Latino and East Asian communities. The prison industrial complex is a phenomenon, or it's a system that allows for corporations to receive profit from the imprisonment of people. And so corporations like Victoria's Secret, Starbucks, Boeing, they all profit off of the labor of inmates, of people who are incarcerated. And it actually doesn't stop from incarceration. Victoria's Secret, in a lot of these places, they actually allow for those who have been released from, I refer to them as returning citizens, have gone back into the workforce. They pay them incredibly low wages that are disrespectful, and they allow them to work in their facilities. This is an injustice, and this is slavery reincarnated. What was the other term? And mass incarceration. So like we said in the movie, I think it was, we account for a fifth of the world's population, but we account for 25% of the world's imprisoned people. That's ridiculous. I think that we have to reimagine the world Could we reimagine a world without prison? Do you all think so?
No.
No?
Yes, sir.
I think we could.
That's what I'm saying.
I think we could. I think it would be.
Oh, I would repeat what you said.
Yeah, could we imagine a world without prison? I'm not the first person to ask this question.
Anyway, why do you think we can't imagine a world without prison?
It's gonna be too much violence.
Too much violence. What
Like,
else?
what would you do with the people who kill people? I feel like prison is there for a reason. I mean, it may have bad effects, but like, it was.
Then there's gonna be a lot of drugs, a lot of people with stuff, then violence. It's gonna be too much.
Okay. Okay. So I would say there are parts of the world where, of course, crime happens or violence happens, but they think of prison as rehabilitation. So they think of it as something as a person actually needs help, and we get them in a space where we're there to rehabilitate them. And our prison system doesn't function like that. Our prison systems function as a child of capitalism or a promoter of capitalism.
I think it would change the stereotype. We can change the prison system. I mean, if we can reimagine like the prison system, because if you really think about it, it's like a mentally slavery thing. Like since birth, growing up in DC, for example, everywhere you turn on TV, they present black people as a negative picture. So like all the shows like Love and Hip Hop, you see this figure, and then people grow up as a little child, like 7 to 10 to 12 years old, growing up and see like, if that's the way they presented us, maybe I should act like that, which leads these people to commit these crimes or to do these things just to fit the stereotypes of society. So if we can reimagine, I think in order to reimagine the prison system, we have to reimagine what they put on these TV screens or what they try to do to make black people, fit these like negative pictures.
So I would say something that
I want to say I agree with Rico, but I also disagree because some people are just plain psychopaths. And it's not only blacks, it's also whites, it's also every race. Like, they be doing some terrible stuff. Some people do deserve to be in jail, but other people just need fair trials. Some people just go to jail for no reason, and I don't think that's fair.
That's very true. Like, some people need real help. But I think the way that we approach those who need help needs to be changed in this country. I will leave my last thing. I would say something that Grace Lee Boggs and James Lee Boggs taught me is that those are two Detroit activists, which is where I'm from. That be wary of those who always have the answers. We should always be questioning. So we may not be able to answer that question in this space, but we should always be questioning. So keep that question in your mind and try to think about it.
Yeah. I should be on the other side. How's everybody doing this morning?
Great.
Good. I'm happy to hear that. Mass incarceration and the 13th Amendment. That is something. That's an interesting topic right there. When I think about mass incarceration, I think about welfare. People, what does welfare have to do with mass incarceration? Well, you have millions of potentially productive citizens who are now behind bars, and now we as taxpayers pay to keep them housed and keep them uneducated, and then put them back into society, if we let them back into society, with absolutely no skills, with no other opportunities that are available for them than to go back to crime. So here it is we think that we're solving a problem of crime and actually just perpetuating it. Perpetuating hopelessness, perpetuating crime. And even a lot of the brothers and sisters that are in these prison systems are in there for petty offenses, if that. So we don't talk about how their rights have been violated, how their human rights have been violated. We are so gung-ho about the things that happen overseas, but we do not see the abuses that happen here in our own country. When we think about crime, what's the first face that pops up? Black people, right? Black people. When you think of gun crime, when you think of guns, what's the first face that pops up to your mind? Somebody black, right? But you know that black people don't own the most guns?
It's white, man.
Yeah. So, as somebody that's in the firearm community, as somebody that is in the civil rights community, as someone who is in the legal community, seeing the intersection of these three things, and every time you think about crime, when you think about the legal system, when you think about mass incarceration, you see black people, right? You see black people, and that's by no accident. So when Sister Shekinah said that somebody has already planned out what you're going to be, who you're going to be, what you're going to be able to do, what she's also saying is that somebody's got a plan for you, but you are ultimately in control of it. What you believe about yourself, what the images that you put in your mind, the things that you listen to, help determine who you're going to be. And so as a result, the way that we change the way that we change the system that we have is by changing ourselves and knowing who we are and knowing what we're capable of. So I'm going to end with that and look forward to talking more with you guys soon.
First of all, thank you, Kimberly. Thanks to Marion Barry, Marriage Youth Leadership Institute, for the invitation for us to be able to share. And I think about the legacy of Marion Barry. I think about someone that encompassed everything that we're talking about here. The theoretical understanding of what we're up against, then being able to bring together a conference, a small cipher, organizing circle such as this, so we can begin to share ideas. And then what I'm going to move to is, what can we actually do about it, right? Because that's the legacy of Marion, is not only us discussing and then having that debate with each other, the thesis and the antithesis, and finding that synthesis, if you will, of bringing together the ideas and how we're going to move forward. But then what are we going to do to actually change our society? So when Kimberly said we go back a little ways, we actually do go back a little ways. And I'll use where Norm was last session when he talked about, you all might have missed that. Did y'all hear Norm last session?
No.
I picked up that. So Norm Nixon, who like Kimberly, both of them have serious history in this program. Norm hit this piece about all of us being politicians. And I thought it was pretty interesting how he couched it, because basically what he said was that each of us, in our own little way, engage in persuasion and acts of, really what he was saying, coercion, pushing against something to get what we want out of the society. Because politics is about who gets what, when and where, why, and how much of it. I took that definition from Walter Fontroy. Politics is about who gets what, when, why, and how much of it. And it's really about muscle. Politics is about who got the muscle to actually force resources, monies, redistribution of wealth to their community. That's what it's about, okay? And historically, because our people have historically, in terms of wealth, been on the low end of that question, what we do have is our bodies, our human bodies, which we can put on the line in order to extract resources. So how does that relate to this question of mass incarceration? Right now, there's an election going on, right?
Oh,
Who's running?
here the recruiting and Trump.
Okay. Who else is running?
Anybody else?
We are.
Who else?
Oh, no, I didn't.
So we said Clinton, Trump, Jill
Council
Scott.
members.
Who else is running?
You have to count the Congress is running. So
Who else is running?
Who's running for president?
I don't know the guys.
Okay, let's stop right there. The notion of elections in the United States is primarily centered at the national level, for the most part. You all, to some degree, just proved that. Instinctually, right? But you go down that valley, right? So I'm gonna give you an actual practical example I'm talking about. In Prince George's County, where I live, At the top of the ballot is the President of the United States. So, of course, you got Donald Trump, you got Hillary Clinton and their running mates. You also got Jill Stein and her running mate. Her running mate's a guy I know personally, John McGrath. And then you got the Libertarian Party. But then you come down the ballot, and and then you get down to what's called Circuit 7, because I live in Circuit 7. Circuit 7 courts. And there's 4 spaces for judges. Excuse me. There's 4 spaces for judges. There's 5 people running. And I'm sending out an article to everyone within my circle on a guy named Herman C. Dawson. He's a current juvenile judge in Prince George's County. There's an article written in the New York Times, December of 2014. I'm sad to say he's a Howard Law alum. But it breaks down how this gentleman, Judge C. Dawson, who hails from Selma, Alabama, we know the history of Selma and voting rights. Herman C. Dawson firmly believes in mass incarceration as a tool to reform young people. He's the juvenile judge. Some of the cases, let me give you an example of a case that went before Herman C. Dawson. I'm telling everybody not to vote for this guy. Now, everybody's voting at the national level. I'm telling everybody, it's getting in the down ballot. Now, this anecdote I'm giving you about Herman C. Dawson relates to every place across the country with the exception of Washington, D.C. We got to get state limit, right? That's on your ballot, too. I know it's a government program.
No, you
Hey, vote for state. Tell your parents and everybody
You
vote
don't
for
work
state.
for government.
Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. But the point is, we elect judges. We elect state's attorneys. Out there in Ferguson, that gentleman who decided not to prosecute those cops was an elected prosecutor. In Prince George's County, state's attorney is elected. That judge is elected. And one example I give is a sister. She was an honor student, 16 years old. She got into an altercation with a young lady at the school. Stop right there. I graduated high school in 1995. Altercations didn't end up at the judge's office when I was in high school. Altercations ended at the administrator's office. And the worst form of punishment that you could get for a fight on the first offense was something called in-school suspension. You know, they send you to a room all day. We thought it was the worst thing. You go there all day for about 3 days, and then you got to go clean the cafeteria. But it was in school, meaning in-house discipline. No such thing as judges coming in and then if you really couldn't be housed at the school, if you was like that bad per se, then there was something called alternative school. So we take you out of this school and we'll send you to the alternative. You still didn't end up at the judge's chambers. For you to end up at the judge's chambers, you got to go through a litany of processes when I was coming up. That's not what's taking place now. Young people like yourselves are going straight to the judge chambers for petty crimes and being incarcerated. And then having ankle braces on the leg. This sister was an honor student, incarcerated for a fight at school. Was then put on house arrest for a month by this judge. And then got the ankle brace on her leg. And so why? Why? So now when we get to the why part, and I'm going to end, I would encourage you all to read an article that came out in the Atlantic Monthly probably about 8 months ago. It was written by my classmate, Ta-Nehisi Coates, who wrote another book that I would encourage you to read called Between the World and Me. Bestseller, New York Times bestseller. His book before that called The Beautiful Struggle. I read that book too. He went to school right there on Georgia Avenue at Nation House. But in this article he wrote in the Atlantic Monthly, it's called The Black Family in the Era of Mass Incarceration. I'm going to leave you with this because my sister was breaking down how there's a plan in place already based upon your graduation rates, based upon the amount of black kids being born, based on the amount of jobs they know they have, and based on what they know the profits are. Private prison is big business. I talked about politics being about muscle. The Correction Corporation of America, CCA. This is big business. But in this article, it breaks down in the late 1960s, follow me here, there was a senator out of New York named Daniel Patrick Moynihan. Okay? Daniel Patrick Moynihan came up with a controversial analysis at that time that we're still debating at this point. But it was controversial because of what he was saying. He was getting hit from all sides on it. But basically what he was stating in the late 1960s was what we see right now. He was saying that the black family, if we were not going to come forth with a massive jobs program and massive job training, that we were going to have a serious breakdown of the black family, specifically in the inner cities. He predicted this. And he broke it down. So he was pushing for a massive jobs training program. What Ta-Nehisi Coates shows is that what the job program became was prison. The prison industrial complex. That's what it became. So there's this connection between cities like Steubenville, Ohio. They used to be the rust, they call it the Rust Belt. This is where manufacturing was big time a generation ago. Places like Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, they call it the Steelers for a reason. You know, places like Dayton, Ohio, Cleveland, Ohio, Chattanooga, Tennessee, where the foundries used to, U.S. Steel Pipe, all these places are closed. Go to these places now. And right up the road from these places, private prisons. So I leave it with that. And again, not so much the knowledge, because we got the knowledge. The question in the spirit of Marion Barry, in the spirit of those shock troops, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and movement activists, is what are we going to do with our bodies and with our votes to shift this paradigm and make it a more just society and situation for our people.
Let's give the panelists a hand real quick. So, what I want to do, and I hope that you all have some questions, I want to create a dialogue. First and foremost, before we started, you watched 5 minutes of 13. What did you see, and what did you take away from those 5 minutes? Anybody want to ask? I know Noah's seen the whole show 3 times. Anybody? Any questions?
I thought Birth of a Nation was about the next version of the rebellion.
Somebody want to answer that?
What's the question?
She thought.
They said that the Birth of the Nation was about the 13th Amendment.
Right.
But the movie that just came out was about a slave rebellion.
So I guess her question is, in here, the depiction of the Birth of a Nation was the original movie, the silent movie that was original. But today's young people know Birth of the Nation from the Nate Parker thing. So what? How is that?
If y'all don't mind, so the original Birth of a Nation, D.W. Griffin was his name. He was a filmmaker that originally made that film. What's interesting about it, the way it's